Most people picture the Battle of Little Bighorn as one final heroic stand. A ring of cavalrymen holding the line beside George Armstrong Custer while waves of warriors closed in around them. Paintings turned it into legend. Hollywood turned it into mythology. Reality looked very different. By the final minutes, the battlefield had collapsed into dust, panic, scattered horses, and men firing blindly through smoke while Lakota and Cheyenne warriors circled faster than commands could travel. Some soldiers tried to run for the river. Others hid behind dead horses. Many never even got the chance to reload. And when the shooting finally stopped, what remained on those ridges was so brutal that parts of it were quietly softened for decades afterward. This is the hidden reality of Little Bighorn's final minutes: the confusion, the collapse, the ritual violence afterward, and the eyewitness accounts that survived long after Custer's legend did. By the end of the story, the famous last stand may not look heroic at all. The afternoon heat settled heavily over the Montana grasslands on June 25, 1876. Dust rolled across the hills in long, pale clouds, while the Little Bighorn River twisted below through cottonwood trees. Thousands of lodges spread across the valley floor. Horses moved everywhere. Fires smoked in the distance, and children ran between teepees as warriors prepared weapons beside the riverbanks. It was the largest native encampment many scouts had ever seen. Custer did not believe it. Army intelligence estimated perhaps 800 warriors in the region. In reality, the village may have contained more than 7,000 people, including large numbers of Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and smaller groups of Arapaho and Dakota families, with well over 1,000 fighting men present. Some of Custer's own Crow Scouts warned him directly. One reportedly told him it was the largest native village he had seen in 30 years. Custer ignored the warning. For years, the U.S. Army had forced tribes westward, broken treaties, and pushed into the Black Hills after gold was discovered there. The pressure had been building long before the first shot at Little Bighorn. Now, the frontier pushed back. The battle began badly almost immediately. Major Marcus Reno attacked first from the south and quickly lost control. Warriors poured out of the village faster than expected, riding through gunfire and smoke while Reno's line began collapsing near the riverbank. One moment especially shook the men around him. Reno's Auricra scout, Bloody Knife, was shot in the head beside him, splattering Reno with blood and fragments of bone. Witnesses later said Reno appeared stunned afterward, almost unable to think clearly. The retreat became chaos. Horses crashed through the river while warriors closed in from behind. Men fell into the water and disappeared beneath mud and current. Others were pulled from saddles before they could escape. Some soldiers never reached the bluffs alive. But Reno's disaster was only the beginning. Several miles north, Custer continued moving toward the larger concentration of warriors without fully understanding how quickly the battlefield was changing around him. The terrain itself worked against him. Deep ravines broke visibility apart. Rolling ridges blocked communication. Dust clouds made distances almost impossible to judge. Then the warriors started appearing everywhere at once. Lakota and Cheyenne fighters moved across the hills with terrifying speed, circling and repositioning constantly while cavalry formations struggled to hold together. Northern Cheyenne Chief Two Moons later described the scene in striking detail. He said the warriors swirled around the soldiers like water around a stone. That image may be the closest thing historians have to the truth of Little Bighorn. Not one glorious final line, not disciplined ranks, just shrinking pockets of men surrounded by movement they could no longer control. The smoke thickened quickly. Black powder weapons filled the ridges with drifting clouds while thousands of hooves kicked dirt into the air. Soldiers could hear firing from every direction, but often could not see clearly beyond a few yards. Horses screamed as bullets struck them. Riderless animals crashed through the lines, and commands disappeared inside the noise. The circle kept tightening. Some cavalrymen dismounted to use dead horses as barricades. Others fired from shallow depressions along the ridge while ammunition began running low. Lakota and Cheyenne warriors attacked from multiple directions at once, riding close enough to fire before pulling away again ahead of return shots. Army training worked best against stationary targets and organized assaults. This was neither. The cavalry struggled to respond to the speed of the attacks. 2 moons later recalled seeing soldiers panic as the fighting closed in. Some were kneeling, others stood firing wildly downhill. Officers tried to hold formations together near the center, while mounted warriors swept around both flanks. Dust and smoke blended so completely that parts of the battlefield almost vanished behind a gray-brown haze. Eventually, the defensive line broke apart completely. During the final phase of fighting, the soldiers separated into smaller groups scattered along the ridge. Some likely attempted breakout runs toward the river. Others stayed pinned where they stood. Native eyewitness accounts describe mounted warriors repeatedly cutting off escape routes while gunfire accelerated into almost constant noise. Pop, pop, pop very fast, 2 moons remembered afterward. One account describes roughly 100 soldiers bunching tightly together near the hilltop while mounted warriors closed around them from every side. Another recalls 5 horsemen suddenly breaking away toward the river before being overtaken. One soldier reportedly ran alone across the hillside attempting to escape before being shot in the head. According to 2 moons, he was among the last soldiers killed. History remembers Custer's last stand. The reality may have looked more like total military collapse. Even Custer's exact death remains uncertain. When his body was found 2 days later, he had 2 gunshot wounds, one in the chest and one in the left temple. Either could have been fatal. Some Lakota oral histories later claimed Custer shot himself rather than face capture, though historians continue debating the story. Others credited a Cheyenne woman warrior, Buffalo Calf Road woman from Cheyenne oral tradition, with knocking him from his horse during the fighting. Nobody knows for sure which version is true. What is certain is that by late afternoon, Custer's command had ceased to exist. Around 210 men under his immediate leadership were dead across the hills. Bodies lay scattered beside collapsed horses, spent cartridges, broken equipment, and abandoned weapons baking beneath the summer heat. And then the battlefield grew even darker. When U.S. troops returned several days later, the dead had already begun decomposing under the sun. Most bodies had been stripped naked. Many had been ritually mutilated. Recovery teams found knife wounds, missing scalps, severed limbs, and corpses so badly damaged that identification became difficult. For decades, many popular retellings downplayed or avoided these details entirely. But for the Lakota and Cheyenne, mutilation often carried spiritual or symbolic meaning beyond simple cruelty. Some warriors believed disabling a body affected the enemy in the afterlife. Fingers might be removed so a dead soldier couldn't fire a weapon again. Legs could be cut to prevent riding in the next world. Scalping also held deep cultural and spiritual significance that varied between tribes and individuals. The battlefield reflected not only violence, but completely different understandings of war, death, and honor. Some of the most feared figures moving among the dead afterward were the war women, Native women who had earned status through acts connected to combat or battlefield participation. Accounts describe some participating directly in finishing wounded soldiers or mutilating bodies after the battle. One Lakota woman, known as One Who Walks with the Stars, reportedly killed 2 fleeing soldiers herself during the fighting. That part almost never appears in Hollywood versions of the frontier. Neither does the fear felt by the soldiers who discovered the battlefield afterward. Many had seen death before. Little Bighorn shocked them anyway. Even Tom Custer, George Custer's brother and a decorated Civil War veteran, suffered severe mutilation after death. Rumors later spread claiming his heart had been cut out and eaten by warriors, though historians have found little reliable evidence supporting the story. Like many legends surrounding Little Bighorn, The line between fact and myth blurred almost immediately. In the years afterward, shaping the battle's public image became extremely important. Custer's widow, Libby Custer, spent decades protecting his reputation. Paintings, newspaper stories, and early history books transformed the disaster into a story of courage and sacrifice. The uncomfortable details faded into the background. The panic, the confusion, the mutilation, and the possibility that the famous last stand was not really a stand at all. But the frontier itself was already changing. Little Bighorn became one of the greatest native victories in the Plains Wars, yet it also triggered overwhelming retaliation from the United States government. Within a few years, the free-roaming life of the Plains tribes began collapsing under military pressure, forced relocation, and starvation campaigns. Crazy Horse died in captivity. Sitting Bull fled to Canada before eventually surrendering. The Black Hills were seized anyway. The victory at Little Bighorn did not stop the frontier from closing, it only delayed the outcome briefly. Today, the battlefield sits quiet beneath the Montana wind. Grass moves across the same ridges where smoke once covered the hills and gunfire echoed through the valley. Tourists walk marked trails where cavalry horses collapsed and warriors circled through the dust nearly 150 years ago. History turned Little Bighorn into legend. The men who buried the bodies found something far messier.